Today, the Travel Punks podcast brings you a special sheltered-in-place coronavirus edition featuring the Travel Punks themselves, Paul Greenemeyer, that's me, and Carson Brown. We discuss the knife fight in progress between Travel Rewards credit card issuers, offer woefully inexpert opinions on the coronavirus pandemic, and talk about how we all now look like we're about to rob every restaurant and retail store we approach for our curbside delivery. In addition to following our podcast, make sure to follow the Travel Punks YouTube channel, hit the bell icon so you get notifications of our new videos, follow the Travel Punks on Facebook, and on Instagram, follow @CreditCarson and @PaulGreenemeyer. All right, so not a whole lot of traveling going on, is there? Hold on, I'm going to make my phone shut the fuck up for a second. That's good podcaster etiquette. So not a whole lot of travel going on right now, right?
Absolutely not. A little bit of travel from my bed to the couch. That's about it.
I had a trip to Lisbon canceled. I did a video about how I expect to be refunded for the promo award that I did with Flying Blue. I think at the end of the day, I spent like 15,000 points to get round trip to and from Europe with like $200 in cash, but 15,000 points round trip is insane. And that's because I did a Flying Blue promo award out of Houston, and the Flying Blue points that I had transferred from Amex at a 50% bonus. So,
oh yeah, that's the double whammy.
Yeah, that's how you really make an award. That's how you really make your miles last a long time, unless a fucking virus causes the entire world to shut down, everyone shelters in place, and you can't travel after all. But one thing about the Flying Blue Awards is that they have a lot of threats and admiration. I can't talk anymore. My powers of speech are degrading. I have too little human contact to even remember the English language anymore. It's kind of a tough beat, but there's a lot of threats and admonitions when you sign up for a promo award that says they're not transferable and can't be canceled. So I was like 5% nervous about that, but a lot of airlines are making some pretty good allowances for cancellations, unless your name is, I don't want to say it, but it rhymes with Schmunited. So
not to call anybody out.
Wouldn't dream of it. And I love United. I know I'm the only one, literally the only one, but I still like United just for how easy it is to, I'm always suggesting beginners with points get Chase cards. I'm still recommending Chase cards as the first cards.
Yeah, sure.
And I recommend that they cut their teeth with United and Southwest redemptions. And I still think and then Hyatt. And I still think it's a good use of Ultimate Rewards points to do United Airlines with a stopover. It's easy to book and it's easy to get value because that middle leg of a 3-leg multi-city tour is going to be free.
Well, what do you think about United eliminating their partner award charts and going to a full dynamic award pricing model?
I'm not happy about it, but if you're less flexible with your deadlines, you can actually still get a better price sometimes.
Yeah, it hasn't from the stuff I've seen priced out, the saver level partner awards are still pricing out the same as they were, but that's only if you remember what the chart actually was.
Right.
There's no hard copy of it anywhere to compare it to, and right. I'm sure we'll start seeing some changes.
We're gonna see all kinds of bullshit in the wake of the fact that no one's actually flying and these airlines are hemorrhaging money, and flights across the country are selling for $40 or something stupid like that.
Yeah, everything's a cargo flight now.
Yeah. And I've been seeing notifications that passengers have to wear masks on flights, which suggests to me by the transitive property or whatever that flights are actually still happening. You can still buy a ticket and get on planes. But the other trip that I had booked, which is up in the air now, was for June. Better than April in the scope of the history of this pandemic. But I have my trip planned to Africa using United Miles, doing the exact thing I was describing. I had a flight to Kigali, Rwanda, and then the interim flight was to Kinshasa, Congo, which is where I was visiting my friend. And the Star Alliance partner that I'm flying on to make that connection is Ethiopian Airlines, which is a stopover in Addis Ababa, which is out of the way. You're basically flying half the length northeast to then fly double the length southwest. That's just how the flights route.
Sure.
Getting to and from that part of Africa if you're stuck with a Star Alliance partner, which isn't the worst fate in the world. Ethiopian's pretty good, and I was booking it business class most of the way, and it got even better because I was able to do an overnight in Addis Ababa with a reasonable amount of time. I could probably actually get into the city and
that's cool.
Have a local Ethiopian meal, but now I'm not sure it's going to happen. I still have in my drawer a $150 money order made out to the Congolese embassy that I'm pretty sure I took it out of the bank like 2 days before I heard the news that yes, the world was shutting down. And Congo's borders are closed right now. I'm talking to my Congolese friend, but it's sounding like the embassy might not be issuing visas. There's a 2 to 4 week turnaround, even when they are issuing visas, unless you want to pay an extra like $500 for someone to get you qualified for a visa on the ground. The most expensive part of going to Africa practically is the visas, certainly if you're traveling on points.
Interesting.
Because it's only nominally more points, but the visas are a little expensive in some cases. But
okay.
Even if the flight doesn't get canceled, which is entirely possible, even if Congo reopens its borders, and I haven't checked the status of Rwanda's borders, but or Ethiopia's for that matter, but even if all those borders reopen, I don't know if I could get the visas in time. The good news is that I've already postponed that flight once. All it's taken is $125 as a changeover fee, which in the universe of changing over air flights, it could be a lot worse. And when there was a lot of cancellations, I was even able to get more Polaris flights, which is a dope business class.
Right. Do you know if there's a time period where United is trying to let people know of cancellations or changes in itinerary, or is this minute by minute, hour by hour kind of updates that
my experience
we're
in
seeing?
The past with United, which makes me less excited to full-throatedly endorse them, or at least to full-throatedly endorse relying on credit cards that have travel insurance, which we're going to get to. I know because we were talking about some of the shit that City's pulling, but in my experience, United has had no compunction with changing your itinerary at the last minute, and hopefully you catch the email. And it's kind of gotten worse with them. Like, they're getting hard to defend because the government mandated that airlines honor cash refunds for cancellations.
Right,
and so
they're
United
trying to
just
give
changed
vouchers.
the definition. Well, United just changed the definition of a cancellation to only include flights where an alternate itinerary has not been created or is not available.
That's cute.
So if they automatically rebook you, if your flight is canceled or postponed and they automatically rebook you on a different flight, which maybe the new itinerary works for you, the day, the location, the routing, maybe it doesn't. If you decline that itinerary, you might not be eligible for a cash refund. And me, I'm not worried about vouchers. I mean, I'll travel eventually, but I'll use them eventually. Eventually,
Sure.
I'm going to use that fucking Congo itinerary. But for people who need cash back, especially if they're cash poor after a job loss, United is not helping.
Well,
That's
and
not a good look for them.
It sounds like they're just trying to stop their own cash flow bleed.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the other side of the coin, which is, can you blame them? I mean, at the end of the day, I still want there to be a United Airlines. After all of this bullshit is over, I want there to be an American Airlines. I want there to be a Delta Airlines. I want there to be Virgin Atlantic. I want there to be BA. I want there to be Air France. I want Avianca. I want them all to stay in business. And seeing the losses that they're posting, I'm not an expert in airline economics, but it worries me. It really does.
Well, I don't think at a minimum our big three U.S. carriers aren't going anywhere. There's already been a precedent set for bailouts with the big three. So as far as the U.S. carriers, it seems so unlikely that any airline is going to fold up.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get bailed out 100%, if it even comes to that.
It's funny because I was thinking about, in my very limited financial acumen, I was thinking about this financial crisis that we're experiencing, or economic crisis, compared to 10 or 12 years ago. I think it's 12,
Sure.
13 years
Yeah.
ago. In 2007 to 2009, the mortgage-backed securities and the over-leveraged housing market and the credit balloon that caused a rash of foreclosures and a rash of banks to close. I mean, the biggest banks were bailed out, but a lot of banks closed. I mean, I went from having a retirement account with AG Edwards to having a retirement account with Wachovia to having a retirement account with Wells Fargo, and I didn't even have to fill out any paperwork. They just did it for me. Those nice guys. So
I feel like I had Wachovia for about a week.
Yeah, exactly. And the funniest thing was I was calling my financial advisor, deep voice guy named Ken, and one day he was like, AG Edwards, Ken speaking, and then the next day it was like, Wachovia Securities, Ken speaking, and next thing you know, Wells Fargo Securities, Ken speaking. I'm like, bro, you have an identity crisis?
Hey, at least he kept his job.
Yeah, that was good news. But with this crisis, I almost feel like whereas there was a rash of defaults on home loans, there's just going to be a rash of small business closures. Here in Austin, we've seen venerable restaurants like Magnolia West, and I think there was another one, I'm blanking on who it was. Threadgill's, yeah, they're closing for good. And whether or not the loan programs are going to be enough remains to be seen. Or quick enough, yeah. But I for a while at least, I was worried that what we would see, as opposed to a bank consolidation and a rash of foreclosures, would be an airline consolidation and a rash of closed restaurants and retail stores. So I couldn't get my fucking via 313 pizza anymore.
Oh, tragic.
Now they're still working out, but they're still working it out. I'm getting that delivery like once a week. That's my guilty pleasure.
No, it's not a guilty pleasure. You're stimulating the local economy.
Yes, I forgot.
You're a hero, Paul.
And I'm walking into every store or up to every store looking like I'm about to rob it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go to the Hilton in downtown Austin regularly to get my mail because I have a mailbox there, and I walk in there with my mask and my sunglasses on, and I feel the need to like look for a camera and then expose my face to make sure that security doesn't descend on me, because I just feel like I'm walking in there like a fucking stick-up man. And I can confirm that there are people behind the desks at Hilton, so I think it is still possible for us to take staycations and go to hotels. I mean, we live in Texas and restrictions are easing up a little bit, but to my knowledge, the hotels never closed down.
Right. Well, and you know, the mask and sunglasses has just become kind of the official outfit of the apocalypse here at this point. I haven't noticed anybody really bat an eye, and if anything, people are kind of turning their masks into a fashion statement at this point.
You better believe it. For a while, I just had a painter's mask that my friend Cece graciously gave to me because she didn't want it, and now I have one of those like cloth fashion masks and a ridiculously out of character motorcycle dust mask.
Fantastic.
With the fucking skeleton jaw that I walk around looking like a complete asshole, but that's how vain I am. And I just thought of something. It was amazing. You would have shit your pants and killed yourself. It was that amazing. It'll come back to me. Maybe it wasn't that amazing.
I found a couple of N95 masks in my garage, so
fucking asshole.
Yeah, from before the virus descended upon us. So I kind of lucked out in that respect. So someone had given them to us when we were doing some of the remodel work on the house, and we had a lot of dust. So
I told you I was talking to Lindsay from Body Collective the other day, and she said she wanted to punch people who had N95s. You should probably give that to a local clinic before she hears about it.
Yeah,
her boyfriend's an ER doctor. She's very passionate about it.
It would be different if I had some giant stash of them, but I had a couple of them, so I'm just I'm just using them. I did have a guy at a store kind of creepily be like, "Hey, nice mask, man. Where'd you get it?" Like, oh great, I'm gonna get shanked for a face mask. That's fun.
Well, cruising has to adapt to suit the new apocalyptic conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. And the things people
How
want to pirate
pick
are
up
different
men in the
now.
hardware store? I know I'm having to reevaluate my entire fucking strategy. I remembered what I was going to say, and it's totally mind-blowing, but if it isn't, pretend that I didn't build it up, okay? I was just reflecting on what an asshole I was in Japan last November seeing people wearing masks. I'm like, what are those idiots doing wearing masks? And so, because I am the center of the universe, the entire universe conspired to make me look like an idiot so that now I'm wearing masks on a semi-regular basis.
It's funny how there are parts of the world where that hasn't been a big overnight change. Like how many parts of Asia where people have they've been wearing masks for years, and that's just part of the culture.
Yeah, there's that great scene in The Big Short, speaking of the 2007-2008 financial crisis. There's that great scene where Brad Pitt plays this like middle-aged paranoid former banker, and he's flying in to meet some of the other characters, and there's a reveal where you see Brad Pitt from the back, and there's an Asian guy wearing a mask coming up the escalator and like giving him a weird look, and then it cuts to the reverse, and Brad Pitt's wearing a mask because he's paranoid and and believes that the whole world is going to shit, and he gives the Asian guy a little salute, and the Asian guy like turns away quickly, like, "Don't look at me, asshole." So that was a funny reminder of how that went, and I mean, my God, I almost don't even know what to say, but I mostly wear the mask to kind of do my part because my social footprint has probably been cut down by like 80 to 90%.
Right.
I've said this before. I used to be in rooms of 50 people or more almost every night. Now it's 0 nights. I used to be in rooms with elderly people almost every night. Now it's not almost every night, but a couple of nights a week when I go to Tango, there are always elderly people there.
Sure.
And now it's never. But I still see people here and there, and some people act like I'm, walking around with a gun shooting grandma in the face, and I definitely don't appreciate it. But then some of the same people want to be like, you're not protecting yourself with your mask, you're protecting other people. I'm like, if you're under the impression that I'm upset to be doing things for other people, I don't even know how we got to this pass in the conversation. Yeah. I'm perfectly happy, and I'm, stupidly optimistic about my ability to survive coronavirus. The numbers are really good for people in my demographic and my health profile, and I don't know what to say about how much harder it's going to be for people who have compromised immune systems or who are elderly. And I mean, it's hard enough for them as it is, other than the fact that it really is kind of a binary of alive and dead. I mean, their survival rates are still better than 50-50 by a long shot, but it's much more of a roll of like the 10-sided dice than it is for any of us.
For sure. And the long-term health effects, we just don't really know. We don't really know the full scope of what the virus is capable of at this point. It seems like every other day there's some new thing that's being linked to COVID-19. So it's just really hard to say what the future holds and what implications that'll have for the health of individuals.
There's so much I don't know. And I mean, I went to Sweden 2 years ago, and I never thought I would want to be back so quickly. I mean, I have some thoughts about how I would do Stockholm differently. I kind of went in the vacation season when a lot of people were out of town, so I fucked up the timing a little bit, and if I'd stayed longer, I was just kind of starting to meet people, but I went ahead and kept a flight that I had booked to a different part of Europe, to Hungary, but I never thought I would want to be back in Sweden this quick, but I find myself wondering if their borders are open and if I ought to try and make my way there. I mean, I have some obligations in the United States, but it really makes me think about if I really had to shelter in place. I mean, this is a long story. Am I rambling too much? I'm going to get to it.
You can trim it down.
Look who you're talking to, bro.
Right. Carry on.
I'm no.